Good morning, boys and girls. It is a happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, May 6th, as we're continuing with fractions, and more fractions, fraction action, fraction fun. In room 137 with Ms. Sheppard and the smart board, Ms. Thompson behind the scenes directing on Wednesday, May 6, 2020, as we move into day 3 of fractions. Let me hear you from home. Fractions, and more fractions. Lights, camera, fraction, action. As we're learning about fractions, we should always be thinking about how we're using this in our everyday life. Why do I need to learn about fractions? Why are fractions so important? How do fractions relate to my life? Where do I see examples of fractions in my everyday life? And how and when will I use fractions in my everyday life? These may be questions that we're asking as we're learning about fractions. And you see some examples here on the smart board of just times in your everyday life that you can be thinking about fractions. I'm going to read the black. I want you to read the green. I should hear you booming from home. Today I will learn fraction vocabulary terms and to identify part of a whole. Should hear you with the green part. My job today is to define fraction vocabulary terms and to identify part of a whole. This is day 3 of fractions, so this is day 3 of fraction action. This is in your shared reading packet. This is one of our poems. I have at the bottom that my fraction action author is unknown. That means the author that wrote this didn't put their name so we would know who this is coming from. This is not a Ms. Sheppard original, but I'm not sure who the writer of this fraction action poem is. Each day when we do our poems and songs, we should get a little smoother. So let me hear you from home. We're learning. Oh, I'm going to start over. That didn't sound right. I'm going to self-correct and start over. Start over with me. Fraction action. We're learning. Learning about fractions. We're learning about fractions. What do we know? Equal parts of a whole. Equal parts of a whole. Break it down. Halves have 2 parts. Fourths have 4 parts. Eighths have 8 parts. And that is our fraction action author unknown. That is in your shared reading packet for this week, giving us good information about fractions. Our second poem, which we're adding a little tune, which actually makes it a song, is called Fractions. The author of this poem is also unknown. I should hear you from home. This is also in your shared reading packet. Here we go. Oh, when a pizza's cut in half, oh, when a pizza's cut in half, there are equal parts for 2 people. When a pizza's cut in half, oh, when a pizza's cut in fourths, oh, when a pizza's cut in fourths, there are equal parts for 4 people. When a pizza's cut in fourths, oh, when a pizza's cut in eighths, oh, when a pizza's cut in eighths, there are equal parts for 8 people. When a pizza's cut in eighths, the pizza poet is unknown. The pizza poet is unknown. When you eat pizza, think of fractions. The pizza poet is unknown. And I do have, that goes right along with our classwork lesson for today. I do have a pizza video clip that we are watching for the 3rd time. Remember, some of the information in this video clip is going to be information we're going to see in our fractions vocabulary. Some of it is going to be information you're not going to use in 1st grade, but you're going to use it a little bit later as you get older. So let's hit our pizza video clip.
If you have a pizza
You can
and
be
want
singing
to
along.
share with your friends, then you will care how many slices you have there to divide up so it's fair. And you'll want to know a fraction is a part of a whole. Above's where the numerator goes with the denominator below. The numerator's a number used to show the parts possessed by you, and the denominator's used for the number the whole is divided into. And you'll want to know a fraction is a part of a whole. Above's where the numerator goes with the denominator below. If two fractions are equivalent, the same value's what is meant. A proper fraction's numerator is less than the denominator, but if a fraction is improper, the numerator is greater. And you'll want to know a fraction is a part of a whole. Above's where the numerator goes with the denominator below. An improper fraction counts as a mixed fraction of the same amount. And you'll want to know a fraction is a part of a whole. Above's where the numerator goes with the denominator below.
Okay, first grade. Teaching points. Let's think about our prior knowledge. We used fractions when we were measuring length with our rulers to the nearest half inch and the nearest half centimeter. We used fractions when we were partitioning our clocks into 2 equal parts. That's when we were thinking about time to the nearest half hour. And then we partitioned our clocks into 4 equal parts, which were my fourth buzzer. My 2 equal parts were my halves. My fourth buzzer means I partition into 4 equal parts. We're going to be looking at our fraction vocabulary today. Our focus is part of a whole. We will be partitioning 2D figures into equal parts or pieces or congruent parts or pieces. And today we will again be partitioning circles. Later, we either end of first grade, not sure if we'll get to it this year, it may be second grade coming later, that you will get into fractions that show a part of a set. I'd like to do a quick fractions vocabulary review. Let me grab my highlighter. We went over these on Monday. We went over again on Tuesday. So on Wednesday, we're going to go pretty quickly. A fraction, a number that names a part of a region, a whole, or a part of a set. The numerator is the number above the fraction bar in a fraction. It tells the number of parts. In 1/2, the 1 is the numerator. This goes right along with our clip we just did. The denominator is the number below the fraction bar in a fraction, and the denominator tells the number of total equal parts. So in 1/2, the 2 is the denominator. When I write my fraction 1/2, we've done this a lot in Fantastic 5, I know the number above the fraction bar is my numerator. The number below the fraction bar is my denominator. This week we've really worked on partitioning, which is when we divide a figure or a shape. The key is it has to be divided into equal parts, equal pieces, congruent parts or pieces. We've talked about congruent a lot in Fantastic 5, and congruent means figures or parts that are the same shape and the same size. So let's go over our fractions vocabulary together. I'll say, then you say from home. Let's go over our vocabulary terms. Miss Sheppard says fraction, you say fraction. Mrs. Sheppard says numerator, you say numerator. Mrs. Sheppard says denominator, you say denominator. Mrs. Sheppard says partition, you say partition. And then Mrs. Sheppard says congruent, and you say congruent. Next is our visual fractions. We did this on Monday. We did it again on Tuesday. We're not going to do this today, but you may go to the Fruit Looping. You may go to the internet website and type in visual fractions, and it will take you to the visual fractions website, and that's a good station that you can set up at home. Not required, this is optional, but that's one of those stations you could set up from home and work a little bit on fractions from home. I do have a book that I'm going to share with you today, and I'm not going to read the whole book because it's a little bit long. I'm going to just pick out some of the most important parts that match our classwork for today. And this book is called Fraction Fun. That's my title. The author is David A. Adler, and the illustrator is Nancy, either Tobin or Tobin, because sometimes people have different pronunciations for their names. So author David Adler, illustrator Nancy Tobin or Nancy Tobin. Now I'm going to do this a little bit differently today. I'm going to hold the book in front of my camera so you'll be able to see the pictures a little more clearly, because the activity we're going to do for classwork is actually going to be a part of David Adler's book today. So we're going to start with the beginning of the book. A fraction is a part of something. We use fractions all the time. And I see some speech bubbles. I'm 8.5. I'm 7.5. I'm 8 3/4. When someone says she is 8.5, she is using a fraction. She is saying that she is a fraction, a part of a year, more than 8. Next chunk's going to make you hungry. When you share a granola bar with a friend, you are using fractions too. Each of you is getting only a fraction, a part of the bar. And that is a thinking bubble. I'm 21.5 in dog years. Each time you eat a slice of pizza, making me hungry, you are eating a fraction, a part of the pie. Most often, pizza pies are cut into 8 slices, into 8 equal parts. Each slice is one of those equal parts. Each slice is 1/8 of the pie. Now, we talked about this in Fantastic Five. When you eat a slice of pizza, you are not eating a true fraction, because when that pizza worker slices that pizza, they're not able to get those pieces exactly the same size. So it's more of an estimate of about an eighth of a pizza, because in order for it to be partitioned into eighths, each piece would have to be the same size. If you eat one slice, you are eating 1/8 of the pie. If you eat two slices, you are eating 2/8 of the pie. You are eating 2 of 8 equal parts. Now, which is more, 1/8 or 2/8? That's correct. 2/8 is greater than 1/8. So the little girl is eating more. In the fraction 1/8, the top number, the 1, is the what? Yes, the numerator. The bottom number is the what? Yes, denominator. Each fraction has a numerator and a denominator, a top number and a bottom number. And that was part of our vocabulary today. Now, that sticky note means this next chunk is what we're going to be doing for our classwork packet today. Now let's do, for classwork, some pizza math. I will teach you about fractions. To do pizza math, you will need paper plates, all the same size. Those were in your packet this week. You will need a pencil, a ruler, and crayons. You should have a pencil, a ruler that you use for measuring length, and crayons or markers, you should have those at home. Now, with the pencil, mark the center of each plate. Using the ruler, draw a straight line through the mark from one edge of the paper plate to the other. The lines you drew divided each plate into 2 equal parts. Each part is 1/2 of the plate. If on your plates one part is larger than the other, it's okay, but it's probably because your marks were not in the exact centers of the plates. And if you don't get your marks in the exact center, that's okay, because this can be really tricky. On one plate, I'm going to self-correct. On one plate, write 1/2 in each of the 2 parts. And then with your crayons or the markers, the book says you're going to shade 1/2 of the plate. And then with the book, this would be on your second plate. On another plate, draw a second line from one edge to the other and through the center mark. Draw it so you divide the plate into 4 equal parts. Each part is 1/4 of the plate. Write 1/4 in each of the 4 parts of the plate. And then with one of your crayons, you're going to shade in one part or 1/4 of the plate. Or actually, that's what they did here. We're going to do ours a little bit differently. On the third plate, draw a second line through the center of the plate, dividing it into 4 equal parts. Next, draw 2 more lines through the center of the plate, dividing it into a total of 8 equal parts. Each part is 1/8 of the plate. Write 1/8 in each of the 8 parts of the plate. And you see here with the red crayon, they shaded 1/8, 1 part of the plate. Now look, moving my sticky note. Now look at the 3 plates. Pretend each of the plates is a pizza pie. Pretend each red section is a slice of pizza. Which slice is the largest? 1/2, 1/4, or 1/8? Which slice is the smallest? 1/2, 1/4, or 1/8? What happens to a fraction as the denominator, the bottom number, changes? As the denominator gets larger, the fraction gets smaller. As you cut the pie into more and more slices, each pizza slice gets smaller and smaller. Now, that's where we're going to stop in Fraction Fun by David Adler. And we're going to do, for classwork today, we're going to do the paper plate activity, but we're going to do it a little bit differently. So we're going to use this book as a resource, but we're going to do our classwork a little bit differently. So let's go right into our classwork for today on Wednesday. And this page is in your packet, and your paper plates were also in your packet this week. Of course, you've already watched the video, or you're watching the video that's going to show you what to do. And you can use your fraction circles from Monday and Tuesday as a resource. And your directions say, take out 4 paper plates and your ruler. I put in extra paper plates in case you need to start over. But if you don't get your pieces exactly the same size, you don't have to start over, but I gave you extra plates just in case you needed to. Now we're going to label our first paper plate. Yes, there's my highlighter. First paper plate, we're going to label 1 whole. And after we label, we're going to color or decorate our paper plate. And I want you to be creative. That means you're going to do it any way you want to do it. In Fraction Fun, they decorated in red with a red crayon. I want you to be creative and do it however you choose. Now, on the second paper plate, you're going to put a point in the center. You're going to use your ruler to partition or divide your paper plate into halves. You're going to label each section of the paper plate 1/2, and then you're going to color or decorate each section. And again, I want you to be creative. You color, you decorate any way you choose. We're moving to paper plate number 3. Third paper plate, you're going to put a point in the center. You're going to use your ruler to partition or divide into fourths. Fourths means 4 equal pieces. You're going to label each section 1/4, and then you're going to color or decorate each section, and you're going to be creative. When we go back to Fraction Fun, the illustrator, Nancy Tobin, she only decorated one section of the paper plate. I want you to go ahead and decorate, color the whole thing. Now, I put in your packet the next paper plate, which is the 4th paper plate. This one is optional. That means this one you can do if you like, but you don't have to do it. You need to do paper plate 1 paper plate 2, and paper plate 3. The fourth paper plate is optional because this is going to be really, really tricky. You're going to use your ruler to partition or divide your paper plate into eighths. You're going to label each section 1/8, and then you're going to color or decorate each section. And I want you to be, once again, creative. The last bullet in green says, Mrs. Sheppard will show you how to do this at the math manipulatives table. So if you'll give me just a second, I'm going to move my camera over to the math manipulatives table and try to set it up so you can see most of my table. That looks pretty good. And if you can't see well, it's kind of hard when I'm at the table. If you can't see well, I will do like I did on the last video, and I will zoom in at the end. Now, remember, first paper plate. This is your sheet from your packet you're going to follow. First paper plate, you're going to label one hole. So all I'm going to do, I'm using a Sharpie. You can use whatever you like at home, a pencil, a pen, a marker, a crayon. I'm going to label my first paper plate one hole, which means I'm not dividing my first paper plate into parts. I'm leaving it as a whole. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and decorate at the end. I'm going to go ahead and do my 4 paper plates first, and I'm going to come back and decorate at the end. Now, the second paper plate, it says for me to put a point right in the center. Now, you have 2 choices. You can divide your paper plate horizontally, or you may divide your paper plate vertically, however you choose. I'm going to do mine horizontally. I'm going to take my ruler, put it right where that point is, and I'm going to slide and glide. If you need your parents to help you hold that ruler, that is a-okay. If we were doing this in class, Miss Thompson and Miss Sheppard would be walking around and we would be helping, or we would be doing this in math groups. And then remember, I'm actually going to label this time with my pencil. I'm going to label each part of my plate 1/2. Hope you can see that from the camera at home. Now I'm going to take my third paper plate, and mine's not perfect. I'm going to try to put a point right in the center. My third paper plate, I'm looking at my classwork sheet as a resource. My third paper plate, I'm going to first put a point in the center and glide that ruler just like this. And it broke my plate into 2 equal pieces. And then I'm going to turn it, and I'm having to kind of press down on this paper plate and flatten it out. Parents might want to help you hold this because it's a little tricky, especially for your hands that are a little bit smaller than Miss Shep's. And when I finish, it looks like a T. Thinking about geometry, perpendicular, and I'm going to label each section 1/4. And when I finish, it looks just like that. Hope you can see that from my camera. Now, I'm going to do the optional where it said to divide your paper plate into 1/8. Remember, you don't have to do this one. If you'd like a little challenge, please feel free. If you think this one might be a little bit too tricky, Mrs. Sheppard is A-OK if this one is just an optional. Now I divide it into 2 equal pieces. Then I do a vertical, and I have 4 equal pieces. Now watch me. I'm going to come straight on a diagonal, and I'm going to do another, and then I'm going to twirl and go straight where that big piece is. And when I finish, that's what my paper plate looks like. And I'm going to label each section 1/8. I decided I was going to label with my pencil because my Sharpie was doing a little smudging and a little smearing. And when I finish my plate, that's exactly what it looks like. Hope you can see that from home. Now, I decided to go ahead and partition into halves, into fourths, and into eighths. And remember, I started with my whole. Now, I'm going to go back and decorate at the end because to me, the decorating part's easy. This is when Mom and Dad can send you over to a station because you shouldn't need any help. Thank you, Eliza. I borrowed your markers from your cubby. And I'm going to decorate my first paper plate with markers. And instead of coloring, I'm just going to do some little polka dots on my paper plate. And remember, I'm being creative. I can do different colors. I'm just going to do this one with all blue polka dots. I'm guessing because blue is probably Mrs. Sheppard's favorite color. And when I finish, I have decorated to show 1/2, 1/2, and I did all those polka dots in the same color. You could do multicolors. You could use your crayons, your markers, whatever you want to do to decorate. Now, Eliza, because I borrowed your markers from your cubby, if we were at school, I would have asked Eliza if I could borrow her markers, but since she's not here, I'm hoping she's going to say, Miss Shep, that is A-OK. Now I'm going to go to my paper plate that shows fourths. And in your packet for this week, I put some stickers. So I'm going to decorate my second paper plate with stickers instead of markers. Remember, I want you to be creative. You can decorate any way that you choose. These are your fraction circles. And I just decided to put 2 stickers in each section. You can decorate yours any way you like. And when I finish decorating my 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4 for a total of 4/4, that's what it looks like. You should have some stickers in your packet, so you may decorate with crayons, markers, stickers, or you may be creative and do whatever you would like to do. Now I'm going to spread out my paper plates. I didn't decorate all 4. I just decorated 2. I want you to decorate all 4, and I'm going to bring my camera, and I'm going to show you what my 4 paper plates look like after I have finished. And you see I use my ruler, my stickers, my markers, and my resource page from my packet. Remember the 1/8 chunk is optional. You may do, sorry, I know I'm making you dizzy as I go back to the smart board. You may do, if you like, but that one is optional. Now, that was your classwork for Wednesday. Take as much time as you'd like to illustrate, decorate, create, but we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's lesson. And we're going to wrap up today's lesson. Today, we did a little chunk of Fraction Fun by David Adler. We went back over our fraction poems, and we're going to end with a fractions clip. Now, the fractions clip is going to have some of our fractions vocabulary that we started talking about on Monday. On Monday, we did fractions clip 1. On Tuesday, fractions clip 2. So on Wednesday, we're going to go to fractions clip 3. And this is a good way for us to end our lesson for today. And this is Mr. R's World of Math. And today his video from his website is My Dog Denominator. And this is the fraction song Denominators from Mr. R's World of Math. Here we go.
Denominators on the bottom, on the bottom, on the bottom. Denominators on the bottom, you make fractions easy.
Dad got me a dog denominator. I think it was when I was a third or fourth grader and my dog was cool. A really good pet, but she was truly the strangest. My strangest dog yet. She'd be under things, I never knew why. Underneath things, or else she'd go cry. Yes, being below, her favorite thing. Denominators down is what she would sing.
Denominators on the bottom, on the bottom, on the bottom. Denominators on the bottom, you make fractions easy.
One day she went missing, where could she be? Out for a run or a swim in the sea. I searched from the park to my home. I called out her name and I called her cell phone. I finally found her underneath my blue bed. Leave me alone is all my dog said. I used all my strength to pull her right out. I pulled on her tail and I yanked on her snout. I finally had her in my misbehaved mark. I asked her a question like who, where, and what. Why do you do it this underneath trick? She said I like the bottom and she gave me a lick.
Denominators on the bottom, on the bottom, on the bottom. Denominators on the bottom, you make fractions easy.
Denominators are the bottom number of a fraction. They tell you how many parts make up one whole. The top number of a fraction is called the numerator and tells you how many parts of the fraction you have. Sometimes I remind myself that denominators start with the letter D, and D is for down. Denominators are always down on the bottom.
Denominators on the bottom, on the bottom, on the bottom. Denominators on the bottom, you make fractions easy.
Late one night, I heard some loud barking, and maybe mom or my dad or my uncle's car parked them, but that wasn't the sound. It wasn't a car. This was a dog sound. It came from real far. I searched in the dark and I used a flashlight. Thought denominators gone? Well, only for the night. I found her at last at the base of a tree. There was guilt on her face as she faced up to me. I'll say what I saw and what I saw couldn't be. She braided her brown fur to make the number 3. The number was sitting on top of her head, and she was right under, just like my dog said.
Denominators on the bottom, on the bottom, on the bottom. Denominators on the bottom, you make fractions easy.
Denominator, hey, you're so silly like that. I laughed and I told her she should put on a hat to hide the third number, the silly brown 3. She whimpered and she cried and she looked up at me. Sad puppy eyes, poor puppy's out. Denominator bottom is what she did shout.
Denominators on the bottom, on the bottom, on the bottom. Denominators on the bottom, you make fractions easy.
Okay, that's from Mr. R's World of Math. That is wrapping up our lesson for today. Thank you for being such good listeners. Take your time decorating those fraction paper plates that we did for classwork. I hope you have a great, happy Wednesday, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you for being such good listeners, and have a great day.